Hey guys, how's it going? Today we have a fun one for you guys. We're going to be talking Tegu lizard versus monitor lizard. Which one is right for you? We're going to talk 4 separate categories. We're talking intelligence, husbandry, interaction, and entertainment. We're going to be talking for both sides of them, and this one's not going to tell you to go one way or the other. It's just going to tell you what it is, and you guys can choose which direction you want to go. Quick note though, I do want to say most of my monitor lizard work is with dwarf monitors like Ackie monitors. I have not owned a large monitor yet, although I've had interacted with some, so I just want to give that note, but I don't think it should really take away from this video. Interaction. Now this is a fun one because it's not Tegu versus monitor in terms of interaction or non-interaction. It's different types of interaction. What do I mean by that? Well, monitor lizards, they tend to be less social, but they are very keen at finding any hidden food. They work really good with enrichment that you will give them and provide them. But on the other hand, Tegus, while they are pretty good at seeking out food that you may hide and doing enrichment things, they have much more of a social capability or capacity when interacting with their keeper. They just really seem to have that curiosity in humans that monitor lizards have a little bit of, and there are monitor lizards that do have a little bit more, somewhat close to a Tegu level of human interest. How I would portray it is your monitor lizard, that's your average teenager. They rely on you for the basic needs, the basic necessities. They don't want to interact with you too much. Sometimes they want their personal space, or most of the time they want their personal space, but when you guys interact, you can form some nice memories from time to time. It's not all bad. Now your Tegu, that's your 5-7-year-old, one who really still loves mommy and daddy, wants to hang out with you guys, sometimes throws a tantrum or two and you just gotta put them in their room for a little time out, but is a lot more social and more interested in their parents. To make it clear, I'm not trying to paint monitor lizards in a negative light. They're a lot more independent and they don't really seek you out as much. Now there are some monitors that do. I just want to clarify that Ackie monitors, although a dwarf monitor, are somewhat personal and probably one of the more personable monitor lizards that you can get out there. I've had mine come and greet me countless times. Anytime I really open the door up, they're there to say hi. So there is definitely a capability for a social interaction desire from them in some capacity, if that makes sense. Just not like a Tegu. I mean, this is what makes Tegus so famous and so sought after, is this, they're a lot more social, especially when it comes to reptiles. When it comes down to the nitty gritty, it's what you want out of your reptile. Do you want a Tegu who's going to be a little bit more socially capable, more interested in their keeper, or do you want to go with a monitor lizard who's going to be a little bit more independent, can just be as rewarding as a Tegu socially though, and has some more entertainment factors than a Tegu might have? Now what do I mean by entertainment factors? That goes to our next category, entertainment. Entertainment. So when Tegus are out and interacting with you, they're a hoot, but they can get quite lazy in their enclosures. They're not really doing a ton of backflips, not that a monitor lizard would, but I think you get what I mean. They're really relaxed in their enclosure, and they're mostly sought after for their interaction when you have them out with you, and they're kind of doing their free roaming thing. Monitor lizards, they could be quite fun to watch though. My Ackies, I could sit there for hours and watch them climb, get into little antics, explore, especially when I throw in some fast-moving insects like crickets. It's so fun to watch them. And large monitors are just as fun, feeding-wise, interaction-wise. It's just it's more entertaining, I feel like. I love interacting with Frapp, my Tegu, a lot. I have him outside, it's fun to interact with him, it's fun to give him little chin rubs, but he likes to kind of chill. He's not really running around doing crazy stuff, and that's fine, but that's what I want out of a Tegu like him. A monitor lizard, like my Ackies, any other monitor lizard, they're going to be a lot more fast-paced and interesting to watch, entertaining to not be hands-on and just kind of walk by the enclosure and see what's going on down there. So when it comes to entertainment, I do got to give the nod to monitor lizards, but it's also again a situation of what you want out of your reptile. Some people enjoy the calmer nature of Tegus, something that's a little bit more slow paced, not as fast paced. You could have them out and about and not have to keep a constant eye on them. When I have Frapp outdoors with me doing some free roaming, I don't always have to keep my eyes on Frapp. Frapp is pretty chill, pretty relaxed. Now there are some crazy Tegus out there. They're not all that calm, so you know, pick your poison. Well, I guess not pick your poison because it's Okay, well, maybe not pick your poison because it's not a bad thing either way. More like pick your Kit Kat. You got the big cat, the big 1 bar. Then you got your standard 4 bars. You know, those are pretty good. Then you got your king size. That's like double the 4 bars. You just can't go wrong with either. A Kit Kat is amazing either way. Much better than Reese's. By the way, if you love Kit Kats, make sure to check that lower right-hand corner. Hit that subscribe button. Ring that bell as well for more updates. Let's go on to our next category, intelligence. Intelligence. Similar to interaction, there's not a dumb or smart type thing, there's just different types of smarts. And funny enough, it's really just a mixture of the previous 2 categories. Our Tegu, their intelligence is just more socially adept, where Monitor Lizard, they're more into the independent side of things, where they're problem solving on their own, exploring, just doing things on their own. Really, you can't go wrong with either one of these choices in terms of intelligence. It's what you want out of your reptile. If you're into the puzzle solving, exploration, using the senses, exploring every crevice of an enclosure, I suggest going with a Monitor Lizard as they provide those factors. Whereas a Tegu, if you want something a little bit more socially capable, more emotional, I would almost say. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about human emotions, but if you want something in that regard, you're gonna have more of an intellectually adept reptile socially in a Tegu. And as I said in the other 2 categories, doesn't mean one or the other for these social capabilities and exploration problem solving. Both can do each one of those things. It's just one's a little bit more skilled at one and one's more skilled at the other. Overall, their intelligence is by far some of the highest among reptiles. You can do so many cool enrichment things with them and so many cool things you just can't do with the average reptile. I will say there are a lot of really cool, interesting things Monitor Lizards have been seen to do. There's been suggestions Ackies can use their tail to sort of draw in prey. There's really cool things I've seen from Tree monitors from the Singapore Zoo in terms of using their arm to go in a crevice to get food. There's a lot of really cool capabilities Monitor Lizards have that I don't think Tegus really possess, so I gotta give sort of a nod to Monitor Lizards here, but again, I really don't think you could go wrong with either. Well, we talked about all the goodies, the entertainment, interaction, intelligence type things, but when it comes down to it, you need to be able to provide the husbandry necessary for these reptiles, and that's our next category. So husbandry. This is interesting because we're talking about different categories, sort of. Tegus, that's a lot more linear of a category, where Tegus, if you're excluding the Colombian Tegu, have pretty similar needs. Whereas Monitor Lizards, you know, that's a whole thing. There's dwarf monitors, large monitors, and each one of them have different requirements in terms of husbandry. So let's abstract the finer details away and just think of the overhead that's common in these 2 groups. For one, referring to those Argentine Tegus out there, they require pretty large enclosure size. I recommend at least 8 by 4 by 4 feet. They could probably benefit from much more than that, but Monitor Lizards, they have a quite diverse range. Obviously, the larger ones are probably going to have at least 8 by 4 by 4 foot, probably larger though, and might even require being outdoors. Your dwarf monitors, now they're probably not going to be as big as that 8 by 4 by 4, so it really depends on what you're going to get that's going to correlate to the enclosure size in terms of Monitor Lizards. So in essence, dwarf monitor, probably less than a Tegu. Large monitor, probably more than a Tegu. Diets. Now for a Tegu, a diet's gonna be meat, it's gonna be veggies, it's gonna be fruits, there's gonna be a whole bunch of things. Whereas a Monitor Lizard, there's some that are purely insectivores, like Ackies. There's larger ones who primarily just eat meat. So there is a wide range there as well. In terms of price, I don't think there's gonna be much of a difference from a Tegu in terms of a large monitor. You're just gonna be primarily spending that in whole prey items instead of a diverse range of fruits, veggies, meats, I meant to say etc. But when it comes down to it, I don't think between a large monitor and a Tegu there's going to be much savings either way. It's really what you're most comfortable with at that point. If you're comfortable with whole prey, feeding whole prey and such like that, I do think there's some savings if you go with a dwarf monitor, but then again, you have to be comfortable with insects for a lot of them. In terms of UVB and lighting, there's really not too much of a difference. Heating wise, you're going to get a little bit more of a higher basking temperature for your Monitor Lizards versus your Tegu in my experience, but nothing too drastic. Humidity, Tegus require a high humidity level. I keep mine 80% plus throughout the enclosure pretty much all the time. Now, some Monitor Lizards, they will will have a higher humidity than others, but there are some that are also drier. There's some that really require the humidity in their substrate versus the air. Not too much of a really big change or anything though, but something to take of note. The only other thing husbandry-wise I could think of that might be of note is that monitor lizards typically will probably have more climbers. Tegus, while you should not leave their enclosure completely barren or anything, there's probably going to be more climbing wood and of the sort in a monitor lizard enclosure, dwarf or large, than a Tegu enclosure. So you might have more decoration items in a monitor lizard enclosure. Well, I think that covers about everything, guys. Let me know what you think, and if there's any other things you would add yourself in the comments, I'd appreciate it. Stay tuned for a couple announcements. Shout out to you lovely patrons, Smoothcat, Herb M, David T, and Angela L. Thanks so much for supporting the Patreon. You guys too can support the Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Really cool behind the scenes stuff on there. Definitely check it out. Support the channel in a different way by checking out the merch. I will put the designs to the left of my head, right of your screens. We have 4 different designs: Bearded Dragon, Tegu, Ackie Monitor stuff, and then the brand name Professor Herp shirt. If you want to check those out, look in the description for a Teespring link. That's where you can find them. Okay, guys, so that wraps up the video. Let me know if I covered it well. Like I said, any additions you would like to add, any clarifications, let me know in the comment. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.